into the hair strand, just subtle at the beginning here. I'm doing this super slow so you can sort of see it. And then as I get deeper, I push more in. Same thing on this edge. Pushing it in deeper.
So you're just doing that at the corner?
So once I push that in, now I need to reapply, right? Because those are important little edges. You want that to be nice and bright. But because there's nothing on the exterior now, it's working on the interior, I have to reapply. What you see is what you get. I want a really strong white finish on each of these corners. So I'm going to come in. See what I'm saying? So it's almost linear, like you can see the line of the white happening. Now, if I was doing a bunch of junk underneath this, I would do that first because you don't want to move this stuff around after you do it. You kind of want it to be left alone. I'm just going to drop it down when I'm done. It's very important that you think about the round of the head as well. I'm going to let this collapse, and it's going to probably crack, but I want you to see what I mean. When you think about how is this going to fall, you think about the hairstyle, like where is that point going to change? Where do I want that lightener to go all the way through the hair strand, right? Because I want these ends to be super saturated and get that nice bright lightness through there, but I want to think about where it's bending. Where is the light reflecting on this head so that I can optimize my reflection? I don't want it to be too high, because if I go in here and I squeeze like this, I might end up with a line of demarcation right in that sweet spot that's not going to be pretty. So you want to think about angling your fingers. I kind of do something like this, and I want that to be sort of softer so that it's pinched more in one area and then it kind of spreads down. And think about where you want that saturation to really go all the way through that section. So you maintain the pocket of depth, but that you have the movement of color through that whole end piece. Everybody good?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to come through and I'm going to saturate that. Take my lightener, and I want it to be super duper white. Coming through, looking underneath. The larger the facet, the softer the color. It will not be strong. It's going to look bananas while it's processing, but when it comes down, it's actually incredibly blendy and incredibly soft visually through the piece. Coming through. Another very important thing, don't overhandle it. Because when your hands are warm, you start to break down the balayage lightener. If it looks wet and you can see hair, make sure that you cover it again, because you don't want to do that. It's going to dry too fast and it's going to be a problem. You know, when I set up a room, I'm always like, do I have everything? Do I have everything? Do I have everything? And you don't know until you're doing it. You're screwed. You don't have a towel. Oh. Yay, and they're mine from yesterday, so they're awesome. These are our disposable towels, which when they put them out, I thought it was dumb. And I was wrong. Because they're really nice to have around, because you have to wipe your hands in between every balayage movement that you do. You can't go back in and pick it up with this big gooey hand. And our washer broke at the salon the other day, and I was like, we got some towels. I got stuff. We're all right. You okay? And I took it all home and did it all at home. It's so awesome being the owner.
We're in the facet balayage class.
You remember that on this section, we painted each side. So when you look at this little nugget of felt, each side has that yellow line. You see what I'm saying? The crosshatch on the interior that's happening, those are all my edges, okay? So they're all coming together. So that's how this is visually going to be. So the rest of the pictures that you'll see will continue to illustrate that so you can understand. Everybody's got it? So I'm going to show you the next picture. When I wrap the mannequin, I'm going to show you. Hold on. There she is. So on the left, I've done 3 facets on this mannequin that I'm going to show you. Now, I am convinced that mannequins revert back. Once you lighten them in a couple weeks, they start to get darker again, which is crazy because this is the exact same friggin' mannequin. I just shaved one head because I didn't feel like doing the other side. You ever feel like doing that with clients? You're going to do a half a head, you do one half, and you're like, okay, half a head, ta-da! That's not what happens, but you know what I mean. So this is her, and I'm going to show you where I placed these. The first one, my first facet was kind of up top, so I only did 3 facets on this entire head. Well, the half, you know what I mean. And then the second facet came across this way, somewhat horizontally. So I have like a horizontal movement, so I get a nice sheet of color. And then I have a diagonal forward, and I have another pseudo horizontal. I've got nice hairline happening here. I've got a nice angle in here, and then a soft one in here. And then I have a really good smaller piece by the ear, just because it's too small to make anything too big. So these are the 3 pieces, and it's the color on that right of this mannequin, but I'm gonna move her around so you can sort of see it and get a better idea of how this is. All right, so look, this is what I call rich lady hair. It's very blendy, it's very soft. You don't see a lot of lines, like a highlight kind of coming through, but you're going to have little points where the edges are. That's an edge. Because I have squeezed that through and then doubled down on my application, each corner or edge of each facet is going to have kind of a linear movement of lightener. So you end up with lots of softer panels, but also lots of strength. And some of it, like they're in design, there's hidden edges, and then there are, see, those are edges. See how strong those little moments are that come through? When you squeeze and pinch the edge and then you reapply it, you get a more strong moment at each corner of each facet. And then you also end up with the soft drape of a multi-tonal expression of color because the lightener processes less and therefore leaves the color hovering in a different place. Everybody with me on the processing of that? Okay, so you can sort of get the gist of how this all moves through. Are you kind of stimulated by this idea?
Love it.
Okay, now I will say, this
We're
little
meeting at the
dainty
main
number
entrance.
here, typically when I'm doing little tiny facets, I don't paint every side because it gets really dumb. And we're going to talk about that when we move into it. But the larger facets, it's very easy to paint each size. But as they get smaller, it's more difficult to make that happen. And it's also a design choice as well. Because if you think about the smaller the facet, the lighter the piece is going to be because there's less pocket of depth left in the interior. So you have much more painted. Yes?
So according to this, basically the whole hairline is now
Correct.
painted.
Yes.
So, I mean, that has to be that application right up to the hairline has to be precise. Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, everything's got to be perfect,
Yeah.
right? You know, nothing's perfect. It's all not perfect. But I do believe that, remember when I did the tap tap and then the draw back in? That's the secret. So once you get that tap tap and then you bring it in, you can see already this sucker is drying and you can see that you can see all the hair through it. See? So that's going to be so soft at the beginning because it's already done, like it's stopped. This is really kind of not that light if you look all the way at the root area. Yes, it's somewhat perfect, but it's not perfect. A couple of years ago, they had this new mascara out that you could put on, which I'm sure you didn't try, but maybe, I'm not real sure. But when you put that kind of mascara on, little tubes came off when you took it off. Oh, see, you do.
Yeah.
So anyway, I sort of think about that when I'm applying the balayage lightener. If the hairs right at the scalp do not look like they have little tubes of white on them, then I might have a problem, you know? Because you can really see where that balayage lightener is. The thing with the foils, you fold that up and pray.
Right.
With balayage, you can see it, so you know. But you can't go back in once it starts drying. So you better get it right the first time. This is a good point when if you're even a little bit worried about it, you know, don't do it. Play on the interior. That way, unless they're psycho and searching around, you can get your skill set up before you're like worried about going all the way to the hairline. But surprisingly, my balayage hairlines are almost as good as my baby fine, baby lights that I do around the hairline, which I depend on. You know, it's just kind of like I had to get good at it, but then it has to cook long enough because if it's too yellow, you're done. You know, you have a problem.
Do you process with heat ever?
Do you process with heat ever? I have one rollerball in my salon, so typically not. I play with my developer. I think that's why I keep the 130 around. You have to have enough juice in order, I know. And listen, I'm gonna tell you, it's a secret, don't tell people. And it always makes me laugh at myself that I'm kind of whispering because we're like in a big room and I have the mic on. Want me to tell you where to get it? The 130? Okay, so it's ballbeauty.com. Ball, like testicle, ball. Ball Beauty, and I get 130 volume from them. I think it's $13. I buy it by the gallon. I hide it in my office. This is not something I have floating around. Like, this is not willy-nilly. And then, somewhat scandalous, once we finish a bottle of Olaplex, I use the Olaplex bottle to put the 130 in, and it says honey on it. And that way, but the Olaplex bottle is nice. That delivery, when you squeeze that, I do a half of the first line, whatever that is. I think it's like, I don't know what the hell it is. But half of that, so a 16th, look at that, I got a 9-year-old and I'm learning fractions. Okay, so a 16th of that, and then I put it in on top of my 40. So like I said, like I mix it with 40 and then I hit it. Once I start working on the bottom and as I'm moving toward the top, I might hit it again. Because then you have to increase it, because you have to have a more aggressive lightener as you move toward the top. Because this bad boy's been cooking down here for a while, so I play a game with that. Olaplex is sort of a problem at my salon because we have 3 shampoo bowls and 7 busy stylists, and I don't have time to be running around with people like putting the second part and this part and that part. So of late, my new favorite, and I don't work for these people, this is just me talking to you in the back room, okay? I like the Truss 8 times. That's my new fave. So Truss is a new Brazilian company, and it's a bond builder that's one step that I just add to my lightener. So that's easy. And the girls at the shampoo bowl told me that they can really feel the difference in the hair. And I'm cooking. Like, I'm not one of those like nice hairdressers that protects the integrity of people's hair. I'm of the school of like blonde people would rather their hair on the floor than be chicken fat yellow.
Yeah.
So I sort of play the game a little bit. Because I'm fast, I don't usually fry. You know, like I'm applying quickly and I'm moving. So, you know, this is all like what I do. I'm not guaranteeing that that's going to work for you, but sometimes, most of the time when people are having trouble with their balayage, because it's not strong enough, as far as I'm concerned. Because the heat is going to make it go longer, and the enclosing of it with balayage film. And I'm a big fan of our balayage film. I think it's very helpful. Sometimes, you know, when you have people that come in and you think that maybe they have color on the ends of their hair, or you know it, and they're telling you they don't, and you're like, okay. Yeah, why are you lying? It's so weird. Why do you do that? So sometimes when I have someone like that, if I'm worried that this is not going to get me where I need to go, like I think this is going to be fine, but I'm worried about the melt, I may take a piece of our balayage film and just wrap it around the bottom. You know what I mean? Like come around and do one of these, all right? Here's the important part. Those of us that are from back in the old day, we were like systematic about everything. Everything was perfect. You can't do that anymore because perfection makes it look like a mistake. So when I am putting this balayage film, if I'm doing something like this, I vary it. I make it a little higher in some of them. I bring it down a little bit lower because if I'm consistently nailing that sucker in the same spot, I may get kind of a shadow of demarcation going through. So sadly, random is your friend, you know? I never do, well that's not true, but symmetrical hair color. Because I think our faces are fucked up, right? Like nobody is perfectly symmetrical. My whole nose shoots out to my left. And I sort of feel like if you do perfect hair color, it makes the face look worse. So I always do that, you know, that thing that they say they're not sisters, they're not twins, they're sisters, which I think is brilliant. My whole thing is like, nature is like a tree, and then the balance of the tree, it's never totally symmetrical. It's about beauty and balance. It's not about symmetrical. That being said, you are not going to fix a lunatic in one day. If they sit in your chair and they're playing this dumb game.
Oh, my God.
I don't know. What do you think? You really don't know? I know that I'm not doing any asymmetry on you. They just can't take it. Like crazy people, they're just nuts. Just be nice and get them the hell out. Yeah. I process my balayage for 25 to 30 minutes, but that's only because I'm trying to get them done. I always look at it, and if I think it's done, I give it a little more time. Because that white is super misleading. That dry white, that, you know, you take it down and you're like, oh, that's just what I was aiming for. You look awesome. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. I love it. Looking good. Yes.
I'm from Jamaica. I do a lot of black hair,
Yep.
like relax hair, that
Got it.
process, and I do a lot of highlights
Uh-huh.
with the foil and all.
Okay.
I saw the balayage a couple of years ago when I came here. I think I saw it in New York and I came here, but it was done a different way. I haven't done it, but now that I've come to the class, I'm seeing it different because what I saw they usually do for it is just like paint on sections.
Well, yeah, I'm doing something different because why would I just teach what everybody else
That's
is
a
teaching?
balayage technique too.
Any freehand painting that
Oh.
is not confined in a foil, I would call that balayage. this is faceting balayage. You know, I would be careful with the relaxing and make sure, because I've messed up some people. I would make sure, like,
No, I
clearly-
wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do that and relax here. But
Done.
it's still, I
it's
wanna
all
know.
the same. Any freehand movement that you're doing without foil is balayage. This is just a
But I
different
can, I
way.
would like the painting on it.
Yes.
But I wouldn't do that unrelaxed.
Okay, good. Yeah, I would be afraid too. Yes, yes, and I've done that to someone before, so I'm really careful. Very, very careful and aware of my own limitations. I don't know how to do that. I'm not the queen of relaxing. I have no idea. You know, I'm very happy to refer someone to someone who knows what they're doing than pretending that I have a skill I do not have. Because that kind will always come back to me, and then I get to share them with someone that I love, and I have no problem with doing that. You know, let's all win. Let us all do. I have this theory. Okay, well, I can't talk about my theory. We'll talk about it. All right, put it on. So when you map a facet layout, you need to make different plans. And there's different criteria in those plans. Sorry, go. Okay, sorry, I know that was sucky, right? I take all the time to make a picture and then I'm gonna blow through it. So when you are mapping a faceting layout, you just want to make sure that you're thinking about the placement. So you guys know when we discussed the yellow and the green ones, how each of those edges, the yellow is the fact that I emphasize each facet, and then the lines on the interior are the edges. So if you see in the picture on the left, the orange and the purple are the edges, the facets, and then the lines going through. So you can see that I did not emphasize every single edge in that. I'm only emphasizing the edges that I want to really show. Because when you get really small in a facet, it gets dumb, and you can't really, get in there. I'm gonna do a little one so that you can see the way that we focus on that. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna carve out a much smaller facet. The smaller the facet, the stronger the color linearly will be, like a line of color. And I'm gonna do one that is going to be somewhat vertical.
The stronger the line.
The stronger, right. Like the big ones, these big diffused facets are soft because they're gigantic, It's not gonna have the same impact in the smaller geography. I'm bummed I can't tell you my theory. Are you dying?
Yeah.
You got it already, and I do too, sort of. I'm just playing it up. Okay, coming through, I got my top triangle happening here, and now I'm going to do what they call a pavilion facet in the land of jewelry. And it's going to be like a longer triangle on the bottom. So it's going to come together sort of like, a cartoon diamond shape, where it's like a little triangle on the top and then a longer one in the bottom, okay? Now, when we talked about doing a vertical highlight, this is sort of like that, because look how that's going to fall. If that falls into gravity, I'm going to get kind of a long line color of balayage. So I'm going to hold this up, and I'm going to emphasize, as in that picture on the left, here we go, this is the one I'm doing. Okay, so this is coming directly to the top. It's going to go right here. The purple are the facets, so I'm emphasizing those two top facets, and then I'm going to work the center edge down, okay? Does that make sense? You're good? I will say that when I was in New York doing this at IBS, at the New York show, I did do a American Salon Live on this, and it's an hour, and you can find it online. So if you are sort of curious afterward and you want to review this, I did it for them, and I'm sure that it's still available online, FYI, and by the way. Okay, coming through here. So I'm emphasizing these two top sides. So I'm coming in, getting the balayage on both of those. And then, because I'm underneath here, I don't want to try too hard. If you feel like you're working too hard, you're working too hard. You know what I mean? It's too much. So I'm going to come underneath, and I'm going to sort of swing it up. And then underneath here, same sort of thing. So this is much more off base on the underneath here. I'm not going all the way to scalp. I'm not ignoring it completely, but I'm not making the effort to get it all the way up to there. It's a softer, more diffused spot. Coming in here, I'm going to work this top, and I'm going to do my edge. Deeper, and then I'm going to reapply on the edge. Get rid of some of it so it's not too wet. Once you pinch that edge, it really presents itself that if you take your brush and kind of skim it up, it grabs it all by itself, reapplies it, because it's already been pinched and it's sort of raised from the rest of it. And then if I feel like I'm worried that it's not enough, I might do it again, and then come back in and make sure it's really wet. And then I get through and I make sure that I do the rest of the hair strand. That way, I can end up with a really nice, strong stream coming through the hair that's gonna give them visual impact.
We only get that one once.
I only do that one edge. If it's dumb, it's dumb, you know? So if I'm like, trying to fix these little edges, that's dumb. You know, I'm gonna take this edge, I'm gonna grab it, I'm gonna move it through. That's all I'm going to emphasize. And then I'm gonna bring that down. That way, I still have a tiny pocket of depth, so this is not gonna be ridiculous like a back-to-back chunk, but it's gonna have that nice edge coming through and you're gonna get a nice movement of color. The first time that I started working on this, I did the mannequin I'm about to show you. And I didn't really know what my plan was gonna be because I was just trying this out. I was trying to figure out how I was gonna do it. And I'm looking at the mannequin head and I'm thinking about it and thinking, like, how am I gonna do this? What's gonna happen here? And if I start sectioning, I'm gonna lose my train of thought. And what am I gonna do? So I went like this and I started thinking about this client's hair, what I would do and how I wanted to emphasize, what I wanted to emphasize, all that good stuff. And I came in and I started kind of moving it around and, you know, making sections, and I picked it up, and I looked at my station, and I happened to have a Sharpie, and I whipped the sucker out, and I started drawing. So I Sharpied out this whole head before I did it. And I suggest that you do that, you know, if you get a mannequin, you want to try this out, because afterward, then you can pick up all of the sections, and you can read it. You know exactly where you put your facets in, and you can figure it out. This was one of my facets, and you can see there's my edge coming through. So it's a really great way to really build your skill and understand the impact of each different side. But you can't Sharpie a human, right? Bad idea. Guess what exists? Washable friggin' markers. You go to the CVS, you buy the Crayola. Hot tip, don't try to use the brown ones, you can't see it. I did a whole head and then I was like, oh, this is so brilliant, I couldn't see anything. Blue. You gotta draw right on the head with blue. You know what people who are young love to do? Take pictures of crap they've never seen before. They're all Snapchatting the shit out of me when I'm drawing on their head. This is viral marketing. It's bullshit, but real, right? So you can get right in there, start drawing on the head, down the road. I'm telling you right now, rinses right out. This is a non-issue. It's like immediately, almost sad that it's gone so fast. But once you draw it all on, then you can start thinking about lunch and all the other important things you think about when you're people's hair. And you know exactly what you're doing, and it's so much more fun because then I'm going through and I'm just painting as I go. And I was like, why would I ever do anything else? Now that I've got the skill set, I'm faster not drawing it because I really understand, but it's a great way to break through that. So there's a hot tip on that. There's a lot of different things happening in here with smaller facets, and you can see how they peel out when I shake it down. Softer, you see the melt come through, and then it picks up the edge, and you get a stronger expression of color. I'm going to do one more quick technique because I think it's really good, and I don't want you to miss it. I'm skipping that to talk about it. This is stacking star facets. How am I doing? Oh, crap. 1 minute, I can do it. When you have a client come in and they really want to get like all over expression of color and they like that nice bright bottom and they want soft origin up the top, they want something that's going to be soft and wearable, but that gives them good impact. So when you're doing a star stack facet, it's just kind of like doing a back-to-back coil. When you do back-to-back coils, you get a lot of impact because they're really, really close. They go like that. But what you're going to do with the star facet stacking is you're going to put the facets really close to each other. So watch what happens when I do this. If I come in here and I go like this and I start doing star facets in different shapes, as I move through the back of the head, you're going to fill every single spot. You do not want any spot to be left out. So you're going to stack them all throughout the head, going throughout the head. Hey, guess what happens? When you pinch an edge, if you have lots of edges coming together, you're going to get a stronger expression of color coming through there because you can see all the edges are pinched together so it's come out like a stream. So you can kind of think of it that as you go through and go stack, 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 all the way through the head. It's very quick and efficient. Check this out. So you get the basic gist as you move it through. through, I do want to give you one area of caution because this is really important because I really messed this up and it's not a good thing and I want you to know about it so you don't do it yourself. If you're going to put in a star facet and you're going to have a horizontal plane, make sure you do a V on that one because when that comes down, you might get a line of demarcation if they part the hair right in that area or lift it up and you don't want to see that. So make sure you use the V in your creativity. All of these things can be done with going all the way to the scalp, doing V's, varying all of this. It's just an idea, and that way you can create your own expression of color and really do something a little bit different than everybody else. And of course, it's also connected to gems, so what could be better? I really appreciate you guys, and I'm happy to see you, and I want to thank you. Please know you are Thank you very much. Bye.